Hello, students. This is Sandy. I am going to be creating a series of videos that go in sequence with the textbooks. This particular playlist is going to start with Essential Science for Therapeutic Massage. You will use these videos to help you target your study as you read through each individual chapter in the textbook, and also some direction on what to do for self-study and how we set this up for review videos, and also how to use your Evolve site. So these are done very casually, and occasionally my cat Gary or Smokey might walk in front of the screen, and that's okay. The focus is to give you a scaffold, give you a structure around the textbook study, which is primarily done on your own. This video will be mostly about general overall features of the textbook. And then the next one I do will target specifically chapter 1. So I am going to take you to the electronic version of the textbook and walk you through some features. Okay, here we go. I've got on my fancy dandy glasses here so that I can sort of see what I'm doing. Let's flip up here. All right. So this is Mosby's Essential Science for Therapeutic Massage. This is where we study anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, and pathology. It has the content of a generalized anatomy and physiology textbook. However, it is specifically targeted and sorted to be massage therapy specific. So it may feel a little different to you if you've had studies or courses that have used a more standardized textbook. The electronic version of the book is really nice. There are a couple of features I want to point out to you. This will be the same for your Fundamentals of Therapeutic Massage book as well. This will be on Vital Source, and we'll get you all set up. You'll have been all set up on how to access your electronic version of your textbook. As you go across the top board here, you're going to see 3 little dots, and you click on those. And one of the things that you're going to find is this read aloud feature right here. So if you click on that, a player will open up here. And here's your button. And
front cover for Mosby's Essential Sciences for Therapeutic Massage, Anatomy, Physiology, Biomechanics, and Pathology, 7th edition, by Sandy Fritz, Luke Allen Fritz.
Okay, now.
Mosby's Essential Sciences for
the setting right here, this little setting, you can speed it up, where you can make it slower or faster. Gonna make it just a titch faster. Your brain actually can absorb a little faster reading speed. And then I'm going to change the voice. So who do we want to change it to? Oh, let's go to Zira here. And then I'm going to play again so that you can see what that's like.
For therapeutic massage. Anatomy, Physiology, Biomechanics, and Pathology. 7th edition.
Okay, so that's the reader. And I'm going to click close. And we're going to go back to the cover image here. This bar over here is your table of contents. Whoop. And if you don't want that to show, you hit these little lines right here, and that will disappear that. If you want it back, you just click again. These three little dots right here give you more options, and it gives you one where you can download the entire book and read it offline, which is nice. Okay, the book is set up in 4 units. The first unit is general overview of anatomy, physiology, and biomechanics, or the text content. So chapter 1 is a body as a whole. That is going to give you the overarching big picture view of what we're going to be studying. Sets the stage with some language and context. Chapter 2, Mechanisms of Health and Disease, is kind of unique for a textbook of this type, but it is the chapter that is going to help you see the relevance and understanding and application for therapeutic massage as we support a client's well-being, their health maintenance, and how to help them cope with a chronic pathology, if that happens to be the case. Chapter 3 is going to set us up with language, and there are terminology issues both in the science world with multiple terms for the same thing, and certainly in the massage therapy world. Also, we need to understand terminology that is related to culture, social situations. Here we specifically talk about the quality of life categories and quality of life domains, because those are the measurements and the guidelines around what is a healthy lifestyle, and how we communicate and set goals for massage within that. So that's the first unit. The second unit, as I click over here, also has 3 chapters. And the chapters in this unit are what the content is relevant to what our current understanding and research shows, where the benefits of massage are created and monitored through a stimulus response system of the nervous system and the endocrine system. So we want to talk about that first, because that also then gives us a way of understanding the main outcome goals for massage therapy and how we are interfacing with normal function, and how we can stimulate a more normal function if there is stress or strain for an individual. The next unit is the kinesiology and biomechanics unit. And this unit is important information because this is what we touch. We touch the skin, which is discussed in a later chapter, but the framework, the shape of the body has to do with the skeletal system. Our movement is related to the joints. What produces those movements and controls movement is the muscles, and how we function as a coordinated unit is discussed in the biomechanic basics chapter. So it's interesting to me that when you look at common curriculums for massage therapy. There is a lot of emphasis in this area, and that's important. It's important that there is, but the nervous system and the endocrine system is where we actually provide the stimulus through the skeletal system, touching the skin, the joints, the muscles, that sort of thing. But it is the endocrine system and the nervous system that processes that and helps the body restore to a more optimal balance, which is what our goal would be. The last unit is the remaining body systems. And each chapter, there are 2 chapters here, and each chapter has 4 systems. And they are discussed in the detail needed to be able to adapt massage therapy to interface and support function through these systems. So if we're going to talk about fluid movement, for example, then we're going to have to understand the cardiovascular and lymphatic system. If we're going to discuss breathing and or an approach that targets and specializes in pre and postnatal applications, then we'll have to know more about the reproductive system. So that is the focus of these 2 chapters. All of them together are sufficient. They cover the information you need to be able to read and interpret the multiple choice type questions that are used on the licensing exam. So you can be confident that you are getting the information you need by working with the textbook. There's also a glossary and an index. So now what I want to do is show you the general outline of a chapter. And I'm going to go up to one of the nervous system chapters here to do that. So here is our systems of control. And let's look at the endocrine system so that you can see how the general structure and function of the textbook is set up. Okay, so what we have at the very beginning of each chapter is a chapter outline. And each of these segments that you see here in black are small sections within this larger piece of knowledge. So the endocrine system as a whole is really robust. There's a lot to know, but the book has automatically outlined it into various segments where you can actually study using study strategies and work with retention and gather the information that you need. And one chapter scaffolds to the next and to the next and to the next. So you can click, right here, we can click right on that and it'll take us to the section objectives on that. So I'm going to go back. So anywhere there's blue, you can click it and it'll take you to that particular area in the textbook. So the design is that first there's a general overview. And then we get more specific. So in this chapter, we're going to start to talk about each of the endocrine glands and function. There's a review what you have learned segment, and you can use that to study by reading through that and seeing what you've comprehended. And if the language still feels iffy, you're not quite sure what's happening with that, then you can go back up and review. You also have to look at information multiple times. So you could go to the review which you have learned multiple times as you're studying and see how the information is stuck with you. At the end of each chapter, from unit 2, 3, and 4, there is a section on pathology. And the pathology that is covered in these sections of the textbook are specific for what you would encounter most commonly in professional practice, as well as on the MBLEX exam. So, and then we have at the end some review content. So we have got multiple choice questions for review and discussion. And then we also have a case study scenario. So let's look more in depth. And this is a standard outline for the chapters. Here are your chapter objectives. This is what you should be able to understand after you have studied this content. The key terms here that you will want to have a working knowledge of are defined, and that's really helpful when you're going into this. There's also a link here that is going to take you to your Evolve site, and there are additional study materials. We're going to put you right into an instructor-led course, and your chapter assessment, the comprehensive chapter test, will be located there as well. Throughout the book, there and in each chapter, there is this feature called Learning How to Learn. And the intent of this is to give you guidance on learning in general, but also how you would target learning strategies for that particular content covered in the chapter. Here's the general overview, and there are these proficiency exercises that are throughout that take a piece of content and try to, it's a learning strategy. It tries to connect you to something you already know. And that's how new information gets stored into long-term pregnancy, long-term memory. So here's a section. These are the chapter outcomes, the chapter goals that will be discussed in this section. And then these are the specific points we're going to discuss in this section. So this is like a mini book within the chapter, a mini section. Mentoring tips, step away from the academic voice a little bit and try to help you connect the content to a practical application once you are out in the field and practicing as a massage therapist. So here is our general content here with lots of pictures, tables, boxes. Stop and read the boxes. They kind of highlight some interesting content. And help you, kind of get again, that connection to the real world. Here's this review what you have learned. And so as an example here, it says, explain the difference between endocrine and exocrine glands. And here's a very concise statement on that. Here's another practical application, makes things relevant to massage. We go on and talk about endocrine tissues other than in the endocrine glands. Another box, And then we talk about, this is something unique to this particular textbook, our history and our legacy with massage therapy is long. You know, we have been a part of healing and well-being since forever. And much of our content, much of the cultural approaches to massage and healing systems are based on ancient healing traditions. And it's helpful for us to be able to connect those dots. And so that is peppered throughout the textbook, this idea of how does this traditional Western science, how is it also reflected in our ancient legacy? So for the endocrine system, for example, there is connection with the Ayurvedic and the chakra system. So we talk about that just a little bit here. Another section. Now we're going to get specifically into hormones. Down we go. And remember, this book can actually read to you. You're starting to see all the features here. The practical applications, making it real. And then this is a focus on professionalism. This is a little bit different than the mentoring tips. This is how we develop the ability to respond and adapt to situations that we're going to encounter with our clients, whether it is a certain type of a pathology or a treatment process. This one happens to focus on transgender healthcare because that is highly relevant to the endocrine system. But these focus on professionalism, even also can start you thinking about what area might you want to specialize in. Here's all the individual hormones. Here's the segment on review what you have learned. And then we get into our pathology. And this is our chapter objective. Here are our points that we're going to discuss specifically. And then it goes through and talks about pathology in general of the area, and then how we're going to get into individual conditions and suggestions at entry level for indications and contraindications for therapeutic massage. So you don't need to have another pathology book. This is perfect for getting started. Later on, you might want to have a pathology reference. We're also going to show you how to look at things on the web. There are wonderful websites where you can go and look for stuff to get more information as part of a critical thinking activity. Okay, so this is the pathology. You'll find this at the end of every chapter. Except the first three, because those are overview chapters. Here's the summary, and then here's the scenario, your critical thinking, and there's a story here that frames it in massage therapy, but it is designed to be specific to the chapter content. This particular client has polycystic ovarian syndrome. And then it's going to give you some cues on how to study to make a critical decision about how to work with this. So you've got one website called Medline Plus and some search terms. This is overall information. And then we've got PubMed, which is there any research that has been done that talks about the conditions mentioned here in the scenario. These discussion points, these are like questions for you to answer or to respond to. So, first one is, what is the evidence for claims that massage therapy can help infertility? Um, and as you problem solve, there's no totally right or wrong answer here, but as you problem solve through this, you will then start that process of beginning to adapt massage to specific outcomes. And then on your Evolve site, there is a uh, feature that is going to give you the author's response to this, as well as the answers for this next section, which is your multiple choice questions for review and discussion. So there's 20 questions here, and there's a pattern to them. These questions are multiple choice. They're just as the licensing exam is multiple choice. However, the focus here is to lead you back through the content, to reinforce terminology, to work on your critical thinking skills. And these are different. These are different questions than what you're required to do at the end of your study here. There's a chapter test that's going to have somewhere around 100 questions, and sometimes a little less, sometimes more. That is going to also reinforce that information, challenge you to recall the terminology and practice critical thinking. So that's what goes into your grade book. This becomes a really good platform for reviewing the chapter. Also, you can get together with fellow students and work through these and discuss and feel what's, understand what's going on with this stuff. And they get a little bit more comprehensive as we go through, a little less vocabulary related and a little bit more critical thinking related. And that's the end of the chapter. Okay, this is the Evolve site. This is an electronic learning management process. You will be set up in instructor-led courses, and that will have been all talked about during the orientation. So what you've got here with student resources is announcements and content updates. Now, if there is a significant change in content, I will post it here and let you know about that. I don't anticipate that. For each chapter, as you can see here, you're going to have some licensing review questions. This is a little quiz. This is a quiz. It's not the end of chapter test that goes into your grade book. But it's a good learning activity. And then you've got quick content review and question form. And what that does is takes all the chapter objectives and challenges you to write a little narrative. And then there's the answer key for it right here. In your course, we will have set this up so that the chapter test that you will use that goes into the grade book will be right here at the top. So I'm going to click out of this and show you how it's set up for a current class. So this is a current class. They're using the previous editions of the textbook. You will be on the new editions of the textbook, but I want to show you how that's going to look. All right, so down here, you're going to have your student resources. This is where the end of chapter multiple choice questions will end that discussion key. That's where this will land right here. And this is what it'll look like with your chapter. So right here, see, is where the chapter test is. And this is the grade book. So these are the current students. And when you do the chapter tests, it goes right to my grade book. So if I go back to the student resources, here we go. And I click on a chapter, and we'll click on chapter 2 and click that chapter test. You're going to see that this is different than the little quiz I pointed out, and for the end of chapter textbooks. The chapter questions at the end of each chapter in the textbooks. So you'll begin the assessment, and it'll load looking something like this. And you'll just click, go on through. And this particular chapter test has, here we go, 95 questions. So you can go through and do them all. You can submit, you can save the answers and come back. Some students go through and do the chapter test first just to see how they're doing, because we've all had exposure to this content. And then if you want to see what the answers are, it'll grade itself. But if I load that again, it'll also show you where you can view the answer key that goes with it. So that's what those are. Now, in addition to your textbook, I want to show you just briefly the online course that you're going to be working with that accompanies the textbook. That is always going to be this orange colored book. And you'll have your own specific designation here. You'll be fall 2024, 2025. So this is an online course. And you're gonna do this as part of your self-study. There are 25 questions at the end of each module that you will do that goes into a grade book. And if I open up module 1 here, body as a whole, there is the actual course. And it goes through with a variety of lessons. I'll just click on one quickly. And then here are the various, let's look at cellular adaptation here. So it talks to you, it's got different little clickable features. This was done for a previous edition of the textbook. Some of the links that it takes you out to may not work. That doesn't matter. The content really reinforces the science book. So module 1 pairs up with chapter 1, and module 2 pairs up with chapter 2. So you could look at this first, then look at your science book chapter, or you could use this as a review process at the end. But the grade, that little 25 question test goes into the grade book, and that's how I know that you've done this. So that's what that is. So this introductory video was to get you acclimated and give you some strategies for the science studies here at Health Enrichment Center. The The rest of the videos that will follow will be chapter specific. And this information will be available. We will reinforce it in the classroom. You'll always have this video to go back to. And I find that it's really helpful for students to kind of know that they've got a resource, because you're not going to remember everything at orientation. You're not going to remember everything when we repeat it 10 times. So you can always count on that you can go back to these videos for support. Ta-da!